Hello, and welcome back to Storytime with Eric Zimmer. Today we're going to read the third book in the Frog and Toad series by Arnold Lobel from 1976. I noticed in this particular book the designs of Frog and Toad are a little bit different from the first two stories. But that happens with artists sometimes. Their styles develop over the years. So here we are, from 1976, Frog and Toad All Year by Arnold Lobel. You ready? Alright, let's begin. Story number 1, Down the Hill. And this story takes place in winter. Frog knocked at Toad's door. "Toad, wake up," he cried. "Come out and see how wonderful winter is." "I won't," said Toad. "I'm warm in my bed." "Winter is beautiful," said Frog. "Come out and have fun." "Blah," said Toad. "I don't have any winter clothes." I think Frog knows that, judging by the fact that he has winter clothing in his arm. Frog came into the house. "I brought you some things to wear," he said. "Knew it. I knew it all along." Frog pushed a coat down over the top of Toad. Frog pulled snow pants up over the bottom of Toad. He put a hat and scarf on Toad's head. "Help!" cried Toad. "My best friend's trying to kill me." "I'm only getting you ready for winter," said Frog. Oh, he forgot to mention he put on boots, too. Frog and Toad went outside. They tramped through the snow. "We'll ride down this big hill on my sled," said Frog. "Not me," said Toad. "Don't be afraid," said Frog. "I'll be with you on the sled. It'll be a fine, fast ride. Toad, you sit in front. I'll sit right behind you." The sled began to move down the hill. "Here we go," said Frog. There was a bump. Frog fell off the sled. Toad rushed past trees and rocks. "Frog, I'm glad you're here," said Toad. Toad leaped over a snowbank. I couldn't steer the sled without you, Frog," he said. "You're right. Winter is fun." But he doesn't know. A crow flew nearby. "Hello, Crow," shouted Toad. "Look at Frog and me. We can ride a sled better than anybody in the world." "But Toad," said the crow, "you're all alone on the sled." Frog looked around. He saw that Frog wasn't there. "I'm all alone!" screamed Toad. Bang! The sled hit a tree. Thud! The sled hit a rock. Plop! The sled dived into the snow. But luckily, it's a good thing snow is soft. But we all know that. Frog came running down the hill. He pulled Toad out of the snow. "I saw everything," said Frog. "You did very well by yourself." "I did not," said Toad. "But there is one thing I can do all by myself." "What's that?" asked Frog. "I can go home," said Toad. "Winter may be beautiful, but bed is much better." He'll be back. Story number 2, The Corner. This is a spring story. Frog and Toad were caught in the rain. They ran to Frog's house. "I'm all wet," said Toad. "The day is spoiled." "Have some tea and cake," said Frog. "The rain will stop. If you stand near the stove, your clothes will soon be dry." "I'll tell you a story while we're waiting," said Frog. "Oh, good," said Toad. "But you're amphibians. Aren't you supposed to like the water?" "Oh, never mind." "When I was small, not much bigger than a pollywog," said Frog, "my father said to me, 'Son, this is a cold gray day, but spring is just around the corner.' I wanted spring to come. I went out to find that corner. I walked down a path in the woods until I came to a corner. I went around the corner to see if spring was on the other side." "And was it?" asked Toad. No, said Frog. There was only a pine tree, 3 pebbles, and some dry grass. Very young tree. I walked in the meadow. Soon I came to another corner. I went around the corner to see if Spring was there. Did you find it? Asked Toad. No, said Frog. There was only an old worm asleep on a tree stump. I walked along the river until I came to another corner. I went around the corner to look for Spring. Was it there? Asked Toad. No, said Frog. There was only some wet mud and a lizard who was chasing his tail. What, does he think he's a dog? You must have been tired, said Toad. I was tired, said Frog, and it started to rain. Well, that happens a lot in the spring. I went back home. When I got there, said Frog, I found another corner. It was the corner of my house. Did you go around it? Asked Toad. I went around that corner too, said Frog. What did you see? Asked Toad. I saw the sun coming out, said Frog. I saw birds singing in a tree. I saw my mother and father working in the garden. I saw flowers in their garden. You found it, cried Toad. Yes, said Frog. I was very happy. I had found the corner that Spring was just around. I'm sure his father didn't mean literally, but still. Look, Frog, said Toad. You were right. The rain has stopped. Frog and Toad hurried outside. They ran around the corner to Frog's house to make sure that Spring had come again. Which it did. Story number 3. Ice cream. This is a summer story. One hot summer day, Frog and Toad sat by the pond. I wish we had some sweet, cold ice cream, said Frog. What a good idea, said Toad. Wait right here, Frog. I'll be back soon. Toad went to the store. He bought 2 big ice cream cones. Toad licked one of the cones. Frog likes chocolate best, said Toad. And so do I. That makes 3 of us. Toad walked along the path. A large, soft drip of chocolate ice cream slipped down his arm. But the downside is, chocolate melts faster than most flavors, if not all of them. This ice cream is melting in the sun, said Toad. Toad walked faster. Many drops of melting ice cream flew through the air. They fell down on Toad's head. I must hurry back to Frog, he cried. Those are some pretty big ice cream cones. More and more of the ice cream was melting. It dripped down on Toad's jacket. It splattered on his pants and on his feet. Where's the path? Cried Toad. I cannot see. Frog sat by the pond waiting for Toad. A mouse ran by. I just saw something awful, cried the mouse. It was big and brown. Something covered with sticks and leaves is moving this way, cried a squirrel. Here comes a thing with horns, shouted a rabbit. Run for your life! What can it be? Asked Frog. Frog hid behind a rock. He saw the thing coming. It was big and brown. It was covered with sticks and leaves. It had 2 horns. Frog, cried the thing, where are you? Good heavens, said Frog. That thing is Toad. Toad fell into the pond. He sank to the bottom and came up again. Drat, said Toad. All of our sweet cold ice cream is washed away. Never mind, said Frog. I know what we can do. Frog and Toad quickly ran back to the store. They sat in the shade of a large tree and ate their chocolate ice cream cones together. Nice. Story number 4. The Surprise. This is a fall story. It was October. The leaves had fallen off the trees. They were lying on the ground. I'll go to Toad's house, said Frog. I'll rake all the leaves and have that have fallen on his lawn. Toad will be surprised. Frog took a rake out of the garden shed. Toad looked out of his window. "These messy leaves have covered everything," said Toad. He took a rake out of the closet. "I will run over to Frog's house, and I will rake all of his leaves. Frog will be very pleased." Frog ran through the woods so that Toad would not see him. Toad ran through the high grass so that Frog would not see him. Aha! Crisscross. Frog came to Toad's house. He looked in the window. "Good," said Frog. "Toad is out. He'll never know who raked his leaves." Toad got to Frog's house. He looked in the window. "Good," said Toad. "Frog is not home. He'll never guess who raked his leaves." If they only knew. If they only knew. Frog worked hard. He raked his leaves into a pile. Soon Toad's lawn was clean. Frog picked up his rake and started home. Toad pushed and pulled on the rake. He raked the leaves into a pile. Soon there was not a single leaf in Frog's front yard. Toad took his rake and started home. A wind came. It blew across the land. The pile of leaves that Frog had raked for Toad blew everywhere. The pile of leaves that Toad had raked for Frog also blew everywhere. When Frog got home, he said, "Tomorrow I will clean up the leaves that are all over my own lawn." How surprised Toad must be. When Toad got home, he said, "Tomorrow I will get to work and rake all my own leaves." How surprised Frog must be. That night, Frog and Toad were both happy when they each turned out the light and went to bed. And they never knew what hit them. And now the final story. Story number 5. Christmas Eve. On Christmas Eve, Toad cooked a big dinner. And yes, this is a Christmas story. But I already mentioned it. He decorated the tree. "Frog's late," said Toad. Toad looked at his clock. He remembered it was broken. The hands of the clock did not move. Toad opened the front door. He looked out into the night. Frog wasn't there. "I'm worried," said Toad.